we gonna get a little busy today because I don't have no work due until like the end of the week. So we pumping out content. So I hope that y'all enjoy this, and thank you for clicking the video. If you like the video, please like the video. If you got anything to say, any kind of comments, any kind of feedback, leave that stuff too. If you are newly subscribed, hey, it's nice to meet you. If you have been here before and you're coming back, it's good to see you again. Thank you per usual. And let's have a conversation. We're going to go back to the thug tales, right? I'm sure people aren't really crazy about this, and I'm going to make this pretty quick. I wrote out this whole thing. It's like this big script, but I don't think I want to do that. I think I want to get a bit more informal and just have a conversation about this, because there was a part of me that was watching the unpacking of what happened with Young Thug. And the one thing that I wanted to hone in on was the attributes of Drake. His conversation that he had about him was really stand out, right? Like where he's mentioning the fact that Drake was pushing Metro Boomin to give him this song, you know, at the heel of his mother passing, right? His mother being, you know, unalive too. Like it was a nuts conversation, and it was one of those things that made me want to hone in on that. Like where I was like, yo, you know, the recurring thing that comes out of Drake's mouth, or people say that Drake says all the time, is that he's just trying to help, right? So when he's jumping on all of these songs, I'm just trying to help. When he did the interview with Bobby Althoff, Bobby, that girl, it's like, oh, I'm just trying to help. When he's taking care of all these people, he's just trying to help, right? It's this recurring ideology that he's only doing stuff so that he can help people. It's this whole 20v1 thing and everything else. But I went and I watched a clip of the Bobby Althoff. I don't know that girl's name. I went and watched a clip of it, right? And she's having a conversation about her marriage falling apart and all this other stuff. And I thought that this was pretty interesting because I was like, damn, like I didn't realize all of that stuff had happened. And I didn't know that Drake had told her to pull the interview and all types of stuff, because essentially, like, whatever happened in that space and time, like it yielded catastrophe for the rest of her well-being. And in him talking about, like, again, him just trying to help, I thought it was odd that he felt like it was appropriate to just withdraw everything and not come in and say, like, oh, you know, to her husband, like, this is not an issue, this is not what we're doing, it's all for entertainment, and I'm sorry if you felt that way, anything like that. Like, nah, he never really did that. And not only did he not mitigate the damages relative to her marriage, he also went a little bit further and kind of jeopardized her entire brand. And this made me think about who he is. And then there was a part in it where they were sitting from across each other, and he was kind of like flirting with her. And you've seen her get like visibly uncomfortable. Like they're already laying in a bed, which is kind of awkward to start. But I'm like, yo, fine, it's not a big deal. Let me not judge, right? We listen and we don't judge. Sorry about that. Um, so we go ahead and we watch this plan out, and he makes this furry comment, and she kind of like stiffens up. And at first, I was chucking it up to maybe Drake is just really socially awkward. Maybe there's something else there. So, you know, I tell y'all all the time, I'm in school for psych. And one of the things that we talk about in psychology is comorbidity, or two things existing at the same time. Because mental health and mental health conditions are not siloed. They're not cause and effect. And it's not one thing automatically yields something else, right? So you can have a tendency to be anxious, but that doesn't mean that you have generalized anxiety disorder or that you have PTSD. You can have, you know, depression, and this is an episode of mania. You can have bipolar disorder, and this is an episode of mania, that sort of thing, right? So there is complexity in mental health, and it just makes sense, right? Not every person is going to have the same exact outcomes, right? Like I've grown up with my family. All of us are very different in how we look at life, even though we have a lot of things in common or almost the same, right? There's a lot of things that we do in entertainment, in chatting, how we talk, how we enunciate. There's so many things that we do that are very, very similar, but we are very, very much different people. So on the grand scale of things, it's reasonable to expect that some folks will present a little bit differently based on their exposure. So I was giving the thought to, maybe it's not nice, but I thought that he was a bit neurodivergent, right? Like I'm sitting there, what if there's like a touch of autism or something like that in there? Like, because to take away from the stigma of autism, it doesn't mean that you cannot have a normal or fulfilling life, right? There's a reality around. You can be, neurodivergent or socially awkward, not pick up on the cues and make certain mistakes. But where I had the shift in my perception about that being a possibility was when this phone call came out about him, Metro, and Thug. And then it dawned on me that this is performative empathy. At least this is how I'm perceiving it, right? So I'm looking at it and saying to myself, now that is giving more like the vulnerable narcissist. Now, narcissism is one of those things that is constantly it's always on the internet. It's always a discussion. There's always someone that's suggesting that someone's a narcissist because they're just self-centered. But again, self-centeredness is not synonymous with narcissism. There are other personality types and personality disorders that can present with self-centeredness and big egos. But the thing about Drake in this case was this notion of grandiosity, right? And it was that broken empathy that made me say, ooh, this looks a little bit ugly. So being in this rap space, and again, the vulnerable part with him saying that everybody's attacking me and he's such a victim and all he did was try to help, that perpetuating victimhood started to lean into that category of like, ooh, this might actually be a case of vulnerable narcissism. But here is where I decided to include Young Thug in this, right? Because originally, you know, a lot of the conversation has just been around him being a snitch and that sort of thing. But then I'm starting to pay attention to, again, this perpetuating victimhood while also being grandeur. Like really just, I'm so responsible for all of these people having all of these great things, but having no blame in any of the challenges or the adversity that's come their way. Men statistically are more likely to be diagnosed with narcissistic personality disorder, right? And watching Young Thug and Drake like display these very like jumbo jet sized egos that have the surface of the bubbles that you blow at kids at parties and things like that, right? Like it's wild to see because you're seeing them in these very obviously fractured states, but they're still very much trying to perpetuate like just how fantastic they are. And I'm not knocking it at all. I'm not saying that it's even wrong. I'm saying that it's not always the funnest to deal with, right? Like it's not always an enjoyable or good time when you're dealing with somebody that feels like they are responsible for all the things that make you great and they have nothing to do with what goes wrong, while simultaneously being disruptive, right? And wanting to be in the center of what you have going on, because this is a part of the male conditioning. And I want to be reasonable in this because I don't think that this is what men always want to be. I think that what they're growing up and being taught to be is really the perfect concoction for them to just be like, I'm sorry, but like miserable. And here's two ways to look at it, right? So if we're going to look at it from the secular perspective, right? Just being people, you have this, men are raised to be prepared to go to war, to go to work, to make more workers. And if you're really special, you get to be famous, or you get to be like an innovator that fulfills or perpetuates that cycle, right? So you're learning how to fight, you're learning how to go to work, you're learning how to make money. And this is what happens like in the male experience. Like that is it. Like genuinely, wholeheartedly, dudes are put in a position to where this is why, like, don't cry, don't be emotional, and they live by, I'm so logical and that sort of thing. But at the same time, they have no emotional regulation or emotional outlets in a lot of different spaces. And so you guys get put in these places to make money, to fight, to smash, and then that's what you're good for. I feel like that's a little bit like blue pill content. Sorry, I'm not trying to just be mean. I'm just saying. And if you disagree with me, please, by all means, leave your comment and tell me what you think, right? Like, tell me how you feel. But alternatively, here is the crazy part. Here's the kicker. I do this crazy thing every once in a while. Like I'll be listening to the word on Sunday, and I took a moment to read about Genesis. Because, everybody talks about Eve and Eve's curse from God after they, ate the forbidden fruit is that, we got period pain, right? Like we deal with cramps and menstruation is difficult and all this other stuff, and conception is hard and all of these things, right? Like everybody talks about what happens to the woman when she's going through just living her life. This is her curse. One of the things that I totally missed, I don't know if anybody's told y'all this, so please tell me below if you've heard this part of the curse for women. The second part of the curse for women is having to follow her husband. And not just any husband, having to follow her Adam. So that means that Adam was also cursed, just like the snake was cursed. But people don't talk about that. They always talk about what happened to us, and they only talk about one part of it. So let's talk about what happened to Adam. Did you know that God told Adam that you will work, and you will be miserable and work until you are obsolete? Like, and when I thought about that, I'm like, wait a minute, that's what dudes is beefing about all the time right now. Like, wait a minute, what is going on? And let me just say, I have this crazy idea that a woman's curse is not being stuck with a man in general. A woman's curse is being stuck with a man that is in his Adam phase, that is still walking with his curse and not acknowledging it. So the first mistake that I saw that Adam made, and again, this is just my opinion, so you can leave yours if you like. The first mistake that Adam made was that when God called him out and said, yo, let me talk to you real quick, he didn't come out, and he said, hold on, I can't, I don't got no clothes on. And when God pressed him about it, Adam real life said to God, why would you send her here? After Adam cried for a partner and God gave him what he asked for, you know what Adam did? He didn't take responsibility for it. And when God pressed him about why she made a mistake and why she was wandering off and not doing what she was supposed to do, and why did he come back and follow her, bro definitely was like, I wouldn't be in this situation if you ain't sent her here. And when I tell you that that's the sort of rhetoric, like, again, there's always a conversation about lack of accountability and that sort of thing. But I think it's time for us to start to be really introspective and intentional about how we are showing up every day and what we're seeing on a public scale in a lot of different spaces. Ooh, the men that are existing in their curse, they are loud and explicit. And I think that it's time to just pay attention, right? Like they talk about the lonely male epidemic and that sort of thing. And I think that therapy and the baptism, I think that you guys need some hugs and prayers for real. Like, and not being facetious, but just seriously, like, if I ask you a question and you tell me, if I ask you are you happy? Like, I don't think you understand like how many times I'll ask a guy, like, and I ask guys this in general, like, yo, are you happy? And the amount of men, I don't think I've ever spoken to a man that was like, yo, genuinely, yo, I'm happy. Every time you speak to a dude, my experience, every time I speak to a dude, all walks of life, they could be 6-figure earners, they could be street niggas, they could be any version of niggas, and it's always the married ones, the single ones, the baby dads, all of them, the gamers, all of them, they are unhappy. And the reason why an unhappy man is so dangerous is because of the exposure and the opportunity and the reach and the conviction that can come inside of your misery. I think that it's important, again, pay attention. And you don't got to be honest with me. Just be honest enough with yourself that you stop recruiting other people to be miserable with you. I've talked to my brothers, and my brothers have gotten awful advice from other men that were not really happy. They were given advice from the best place that they could. But again, if you're just being honest about being happy, that's enough. Just say, like, you know what? I don't really like this part of what I'm doing, but I think that this part is going really well. And it makes a world of difference. So I guess that's it for now. And the next one, I'm gonna talk to the girls, because we gotta talk. But that's it. I hope I didn't hurt nobody's feelings, but if I did, just tell me down below, because I'm working on my tough skin now. So that's it. Bye.